Okay, we're up to the Mishnah. Good luck to all. We're up to the Mishnah and Daf Kuf Amid Beis, the bottom. A person sells, he's selling zaysim for wood. In other words, these are olive trees. Generally, one is not permitted to cut down a fruit-bearing tree, but since these, as we're going to see, the olives were very inferior, they were not producing a good crop. Memela, you could sell it for the eitzim. So he went ahead, he sold these zaysim for eitzim. The yasu pachas may art revius l'sa, and they made less than a quarter of a like or revius for a sa. It's really an infinitesimal amount. They got a revius out of a sa of olives. You got a revius. Hari elu shel bal hazaysim. Then this revius of shemen belongs to the tree owner of the tree and not the owner of the karka. As we're going to see, he's Michael. However, asu revius l'sa, if they goes ahead and makes more than a revius, this one says it was my tree that made it. It was my land that made it. Yachloku, they'll go ahead and divide it. This doesn't seem to be sumchis din. This seems to be it seems to be everyone agrees with this. Shatif nor zaysav v'nasna toich sadach aveira. A very interesting case. You have your trees. You have this flood. The flood takes your trees and transplants it into somebody else's property. So you're taking olive trees and it's transplanting into somebody else's property, and now they grow. Ze oima godloi, zesi godloi. This one says my tree produced the olives that produced the shemen. Ze oima artsi godloi, and this one says no, it was my land. Yachloku, they'll divide it. So we're going to focus on the case. So the first case was what? The first case was that they made a deal. He sold a tree. And so he owned the tree. It was on the Baal Karka's land. And we said this ratio, if it was less than a revius, then it belongs to the owner of the tree. If it was more, then it belongs to Matu. Then they disagree and they say they divide it.
Didn't we learn a Gemara in Baba Kama that you Michael that? In other words, like it's lost, not that you Michael, you lost it. When a flood comes and it carries your property, you write it off. It's gone.
That's when it's lost from everybody. That's when it's lost. Shataf Nor. We learned it in Metzia.
Yeah.
So I'm answering your question.
Okay.
That's when it's lost from Asher Avad Mimenu. Umatza Eitzel Kolodam. That case was Hesh when it was lost from everybody. Shataf Nor. It was lost from everybody. And so even Harold, let me finish.
Yeah, I'm listening.
Even if the guy is miyayish, even if he's miyayish, he's saying, I'm not, even if he's not miyayish, I'm not miyayish, we don't listen to him. That's the case. So over here, this case is next door neighbor, let's say. He knows it's his tree. The tree gets flooded and it goes next, now it takes root in the other place. Okay. The bottom line, let's deal with the first case. The first case is what? He went ahead and they made a deal. A person sold a tree for what? For his for the wood. So either Amalek kites the altar, if he told him cut down the tree immediately, afilu pachas mervias nami lebala karka, even less than a revius should be the bala karka. After all, he told him to cut it down. He didn't cut it down. So who the pasha nafshe? It's his loss. In other words, I told you to take it down, meaning I don't want it there, and you left it there. So regardless of the amount of shemen, it should remain to the bala karka, the owner of the land. And either Amalek called Amos the boy's cuts, and if he told him, take your time, no pressure. Anytime you want to cut it down, cut it down. I feel revius nami lebal zeisim. Even revius should be lebal zeisim. In other words, the criteria over here should be does he have a right to be there or not? If he doesn't have a right to be there, then everything should go to the bala karka. If he has every right to be there, then everything should remain by the owner of the tree, the bala zeisim. So what's the case of the Mishnah? Like tzricha the Amalei stama. He says stam. He didn't they say it's stam. They didn't set his man. So he didn't tell them get rid of it, or he didn't say stay as long as you want. He just said, here's your trees, you own them. That's all he said. So we did it stam without any time designation. Pachas revius like kapti inshi. if it produces shemen, less revius loig of shemen, then a person's not makbid, and therefore he's Michael, the Baal a kark is Michael, and it goes to the Baal Hazesim, the Baal of the tree. Revius kapti inchi, but a revius you makbid, and therefore you're going to have the fight over it, and you'll say yachleiku. Amrav Shimon Pasi, revius she'amru, this revius that we're talking about is chutz meha'itza, right? This revius that we're talking about, the revius that we're talking about that in the Mishnah, that if it produces a saw of that if it produces that yachloku, that goes as chutz from the value of the chutz of the haitzah, that they're going to go ahead. You need to go ahead and harvest the grapes and crush, not grapes, harvest the olives and crush the olives. That's excluding that. Excluding that would be the price. Now, next case was Shatif Nar Zeisov. We went ahead, and it pushed it over there. Shatif Nar Zeisov, and so what was the halacha? He said that this person said that it was my tree that made it. This person said it was my land that made it, and then we're going to say the din is what is yechloku. That is yechloku. Now this is the din of Orla. Orla is the first 3 years of a fruit-bearing tree. It's asa bahna. El shenekru b'gushayim ula achas shalish. We're speaking about a tree that when it was uprooted, it wasn't just uprooted the tree, but along with the tree came its gush. It's like if you pick up a tree, you have clods of earth that are attached to the tree. So what the flood did was it uprooted the tree, and it took the tree along with all its schmutz, all the clods, and the tree was after 3 years old. If it was within 3 years, if it was in 3 years of the tree, hakol shabala zeisim, then everything goes to the bala zeisim. If it was with mitoich hakol shabala zeisim, damalei. If you would have gone ahead and planted within 3, would you have eaten it? In other words, so I have this tree. This tree has sesame on the tree. It now goes, it's past 3 years old. So I have every right to eat it because it's past the orla part. It now goes and it takes root in somebody else's property, right? You could tell the guy, right? If it's b'toich shalosh, it's within 3 years. The Baal Hazesim could tell him, if you would have planted the tree now, would you have eaten? So therefore, he doesn't eat now. Okay. For Malay, let him tell him, if I would have planted it after 3 years, but I should be able to go ahead, Rod, and eat 3 with you. So let's get the case straight. Let's get the case straight over here. This case, Ula wants to go ahead and qualify the case that this land, this tree, was uprooted with its root, and this tree was what it would have been with the bahana. Right? It would have been what? It wouldn't with the hana because it's after 3 years. But if it was within 3 years, where everything goes to the Baal Hazesim, because the Baal Hazesim could tell to the Baal HaKarka, if you would have planted this tree, it's asa because Orla. I'm not getting the case right. I thought I had the case right. Hang on a second, guys. Hang on a second. Okay, I'm not exactly sure. I think I have it, but I'm not exactly sure. Shotaf nor Zeisav. So we said it in Yechloku. Amar Ula, Amar Reish Lakish, Loishanu that Yechloku, El Shenekru Bigoshasehem, that it was uprooted with its gush, and it's after 3 years. So if something is uprooted with its gush, it seems to be potter from Orla. It seems to be potter from Orla, and now it's replanted in the field, and it's speaking that even if the gush was 3 years old, right? The chiddush is still yechloku. If it was within 3 years, then hakol shel Baal Hazesim, then everything would be to the Baal Hazesim. It would not be the one who owns the land would not get any of the actions. The Amarle, the one who owns the tree, can say to the one who owns the land, if you would have planted now at this point, would you eat it? So therefore now, since the gush good, it came from my land and it's part of Marla, it's landing in your land, but it's within 3 years of the tree, you wouldn't be able to eat anyway. Malay, let the Balkarka say to him, if I would have planted it, then after 3 years, I'd eat the whole thing. Let me at least go ahead and eat half with you now. Let me eat half with you now. Taisra says on this, right? I would have gone ahead and bought small trees. They would have grown up. And they would be as like your Paris. I didn't do that, but I let your trees stay there. In other words, I have a taina. You had sitting in my field, you have trees. So what's your taina? Your taina is it's within 3 years, and therefore you can't eat after 3 years. He goes, if I would have known that I won't be able to eat after 3, right? I would have gone ahead, I want to let your tree stay there. At least let me go ahead, Rod, and share half with you, because I let you have the trees here now in my field with the idea that at least I'll have half afterwards. Because if I would have planted my own trees, I would have a whole thing. But I don't have a whole thing. So at least let me get half. So that's the time and half. Let's see it inside. If I would have planted after 3, it would be totally mine. But hashta, that I let you stay and I didn't plant, let me go ahead and at least eat half with you. So therefore, why do you mean that you would say echlaiku? Mitaych shalish. According to Ula's din, you want to say you don't say echlaiku, mitaych shalish. Why not? Ella ki asa Rav and Reish Lakish. We have not Ula's idea what Reish Lakish said, but Ravin said in the name of Reish Lakish. Like Shanu, that the din is echlaiku, ela shenekru b'gosheim ubetaych shalish. That it was oiker from the ground within 3 years, and therefore yechlaiku. After 3 years, karka, right? If after 3 years the gush goes and it takes root, everything goes to the balakarka. The amalei if I would have planted after 3 years, okay. In other words, so yechloku is only within the 3 years, right? But after 3 years, everything belongs to me. Let the owner of the tree say, if you would have planted within 3, right, you wouldn't be able to eat. Hashtaka achla palga b'hadoi. Now let me eat at least eat half. In other words, I let you eat half of mine. Correct? In other words, here's the deal. The tree uprooted was part of Marla, it landed within 3 years. So now you're dividing it. Says, but after 3 years, the Bala Karka says everything's mine. Let the owner of the tree say to him, listen 1 second. We yachlaiku within the 3 we yachlaiku. And that reward that you ate, let me eat within the 3, I should be able to go ahead and eat after the 3. So on that he says, Mishum the Amalei, because the owner of the land could say to him, if I would have planted myself, so the leaves of the tree wouldn't have been so big, and I would have been able to plant silka viraka. I would have planted underneath it beets and vegetables because I would have sunlight. But now the reason why I am able to divide with you during the 3 years is because I didn't plant those trees. So because then I could have had enough of my land with vegetables and with beets. But now I couldn't. Why? Because your tree was on the land and I was protecting it. So that's why I got half. But not that you should be able to eat after 3 years with me. So this is the final decision, that after 3 years, the whole thing belongs to the Balakarka. It's only within 3 years that you say Yechloiku. So, Tana, Amahala, Zeisai Ani Naito. The guy says, I'm taking my trees. In other words, they took root, and now you want to take them. Ain't Shemela. We don't let them take the trees. My time. What's the reason? Rabbi Yochanan Yishuv Eretz Yisrael, because of Yishuv Eretz Yisrael. Now, it was his trees that got uprooted and settled on the other guy's land. Now he wants his trees back. We don't let him take it. We don't let him take it. Right? Why? Because the Yishuv Eretz Yisrael. Now, Tosfos says, look at Tosfos. The Mama Hala Zaysi Ani Naitel Ein Shayim Loi, Eli Yisharu Azaysim Sham. It remains there. Afa Pishal Acha Gimel Akol Shabala Karka. Even though you have to gimel the whole thing with the balakarka, ubalakarka you think the meyazaysim kimaysha shavim limchol linatiyos, and the balakarka he has to recompensate the owner of the trees with trees that are pay for fruit bearing trees. Like sagi b'demei eitzim, he can't just pay him for the wood. Shahari lasis peiros ein oimdim. So in other words, he can't take the trees, but the owner of the land will have to tell him that what? That I'll give you. He has to pay him high end. If you sell a tree for its Paris, it's going to get more money than you sell a tree for its wood. So since this is standing there for Paris, he has to pay him that. But he's not able to take the trees. What's the reason he can't take the trees? Mishum Yishuv Eretz Yisrael. Comments the Gemara on this, that Rabbi Yochanan says, Yishuv Eretz Yisrael. So I'm Rav Yirmiyah, Kikoin Dat Sricha Rabba. For this, you need a Rebbe. This, you need to say a big Chiddush. In other words, it's a Chiddush to say Yishuv Eretz Yisrael. What would you have said? If you look at the Amid Beis, guys, Amid Beis, just quickly, look at the second Rashi from the top. Mishum Kichsha Da'ara, Shekvar Chishu Hanetiyos Es Hasodeh, Sheyonku Mimenu. They're ready. What are you going to do? You're going to take the trees out. They already went ahead and they weakened the land by taking out all its nutrients. So that's what I would have said. That's what I would have said. The reason is you can't do it. So the Chiddush over here is not because for that reason. The reason over here is because of Yishuv Eretz Yisrael. That's the Chiddush of Rabbi Yochanan. Now we're going to bring in another case that has nothing to do with anything, but it simply concludes with the same words that what David Tzricha Rabba. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Hamakabel Sada. Okay, now there's a din of kablonis and chachirus. Okay, there's a din of kablonis and chachirus. Kablonis is an oris. When we say a sharecropper is somebody who works the land for a percentage of the crops. If the land doesn't produce anything, the owner of the land doesn't get anything. If it does produce, then depending upon the percentage that they discuss, a third, a quarter, a half, whatever it is. But it depends upon the percentage of the produce of the land. There's then this chachirus. Chachirus is you guarantee this person X amount. And if the land doesn't produce it, you're going to get it somebody else. But this guy has the security, the owner of the land has the security that he's going to get back a certain amount. We're discussing right now is a regular kalban, a regular oris who's working the land for a percentage, okay? The reason we're bringing this in has nothing to do with the price of tea in China, simply, but it's going to end up with saying the words da rabba. For this, you needed a rebbe. That's the reason, okay? In addition, it's a good hakdama to Daf Kuf Gimel, where we're going to go ahead and start the sugyas of kablonis. But so, let's begin. Tanan Hasan, Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Hamakabel Sada Stei Avaisav Min Anachri. You have a sada of his fathers that belong to a guy. It's an Eretz Yisrael, obviously. Maisa. You take Maisa off the whole field, v'noisin loy, and you give it to him. After Maisa, you give the percentage of the field to the Nachri. Savrua, the Bnei Yeshiva held to say, Maisa Avaisav. What is Stei Avaisav? It's Eretz Yisrael. But my korele Stei Avaisav, Stei Avram Yitzchak v'Yaakov. So it's not his Stei Achuz. So it's not something that is owned in the family. It's an Eretz Yisrael like a field, and it's what it belonged to the guy. It belonged to the guy, and you're going ahead now, and you have a din. You came into a contract with the guy that you're going to go ahead and provide the guy X amount. Why did the Brisa say? The Brisa said you're going to go ahead. Well, it's a mission actually that you're going to go ahead and take Meiser off the whole field. Okay, now. Why would you be chayiv to take Meiser off the whole field if the guy owned the field? Doesn't a guy's ownership of the field take off the Meiser? Says the Gemara, v'kasavar ein kinyan l'nachri be'eretz Yisrael le'afkia miyad Meiser. There's no kinyan for the nachri in Eretz Yisrael to take off Meiser. So in other words, the whole field is mechayiv in Meiser. Now, if you would go ahead and be a Jew, all you'd have to do is take Meiser off your part, not his part. Over here now, you're taking Meiser off everything, right? Guys, you hear the difference. If you were in a deal with X amount, you're getting a third, a fifth, or a quarter, or half, whatever it is, you would only take Meiser off your percentage of your crop. Not here, you take off not only yours, you take off the guys as well. Good. So that's first hakdama, that the guy's ownership of land in Eretz Yisrael does not take off the Chi of Meiser. And secondly, you're taking Meiser off not only your part, but the guy's part as well. And obviously, you're going to have to give the guy the percentage that he was promised. Umekabel kechoicher dami. And an oris has the same din, we'll view him as a choicher. We'll view him as a person who has to give a set amount. Now, guys, listen to the difference in Lomdis. If you're working the field as an oris, then you don't own the field. You don't own the peiros. Whatever you produce, you're giving a percentage, but the field is owned by the owner. If you go ahead, however, bechachiris, and you promise the guy set amount, so we'll view the field totally as you. And anything you pay is a chayiv, because he's guaranteed. You guaranteed him 5,000 bushels. You're going to pay it. If the field can produce it, great. If the field can't produce it, you're going to have to get it from somebody else. But we'll view as you have ownership vis-a-vis the peiros in the field, the whole field. We'll view, even though the guy owns the field, but the peiros. Memela, two dinim. One, the guy's ownership does not take off what? The din of Maisa. And two, we'll view you as a Baal Chayiv to pay the guy. Uma choicher bein avad bein lo yavad boy yisurei. The choicher, whether he works or doesn't work, he has to take Meiser. And give it to the balabas. It's like he's being peireya his chayv, paying off his chayv. Af mekabel nami, so to an oris, ki peireya chayvasay dami, ma'isa v'naisinla. So he takes ma'isa off and gives it to him. So again, we want to say the following: the explanation, we have a problem over here. How do you explain a case where you're going ahead giving ma'isa on every part of the field? Especially when a guy owned the field. Especially when the guy owns the field. It's like, in other words, normally you'd only have to take Meiser off yours. Now, A, you have to take Meiser off yours, and B, you're going to have to give the guy his full share. He's not interested in Meiser. So his Meiser part's coming off yours, guys. His Meiser part, in other words, I'll give you a mashal. Let's say it's 100. Let's say it's 100. The field's 100. You're going to get 50. So normally what you would do is you would take Meiser off, and let's say Meiser was 22. Out of 100, it's 22. So you take off, each person would get a 50 minus 11. 50 minus 11, each one person would get 39. You would have to take off that 39 minus 11, 28. He's getting his 50, and you're getting the third. You're getting, no, it's you're getting double Meiser because you're taking off the guy's half. Now, where does this come up with? Where do you get this from? So it must be A, there's a chiyuv in the guy's meiser because his ownership doesn't take off meiser, and B, we'll view an aris as a chaycher le'inyan meiser that you have to take just like the chaycher takes meiser of everything because he's a bal chayiv and he pays the chayiv. So too over here, that's the way we're going to answer up this cryptic brisa. Okay, now next, there's another way to learn pshat. Amalei Rav Kanal Rav Papi v'im lo l'bzvid elahad Tanya Rabbi Yehuda Omer hamakadol sadam sdei avoisav. Someone who has an aris deal in the stud of his father, mimatzik, nachri, from a gazlan who's a nachri who stole the field, meiser, he takes off meiser, v'noisin law, and he goes ahead what? And he gives it to him. Now, ma'ir yamatzik, afilu ein matzik nami. The first case was, right, the guy owned the field. Why do you have to introduce the idea of gazlan? He's going to have to take meiser off. If your hanacha is correct, that a guy's ownership in the field does not take off meiser, does not take off the chiyuv of meiser, and he's a perei chayiv, so l'chayra, it shouldn't make a difference whether he stole the field or not. A guy's kinyan could take off meiser, and you should be part of for meiser. And even if you're going to say, here's the way Rashi learns, guys, listen to this knech. And even so, in other words, and therefore you shouldn't have to take off meiser. And even if you're going to say that a guy's ownership does not take off the chiyuv of meiser, guys are here. And even if you're going to say that a guy's ownership does not take off the chiyuv of meiser, nonetheless, Mekabel is lavka chaycher dami. So therefore, there's no reason you should have to pay what for the guys might take mice off the guy's part. Even if you can say that, it shouldn't be. Who might stay a voice of, you know what it means? Stay a voice of mamish. It's his stay achuza. It's his field. Ulidehu de rabbanon. And the Chachamim made him take Maisa off somebody else's field. Now, you're a sharecropper, right? And now you come down to a field. The field's in the hand of a guy. And you're told the following. Normally, you're a sharecropper. You only have to take Maisa off your percentage of your crop. But now you're going to have to take it off the guys also. No one in his right mind is going to do that. He's going to go to a sharecrop contract where he only has to take Maisa off his crop. Why should he lose? So over here, really, why are we making him take off the Meiser? For the following reason, right? Uladidei, whose father owned the field, and it's his steachuza, who the konsur rabbanon, the rabbanon considered to take Meiser off the guy's part. The idea, the chaviva ola, since what the field is there to him, tafiv ozol, he'll go ahead and he'll add on to take off the Meiser of the guy. Mekabele and accept a contract to be the sharecropper. But another person, no, because why? He'll never go ahead. We won't expect him, guys, to take off the. Another guy comes to sharecrop the field. We won't expect him to, because who else will never take the job? For the Gemara will day my time of konsura bonan. Mashmi did an avera. Why do we cancel him? So Rabbi Yochanan, it's not an avera. He did no avera. Kidei shedei bora biyadoi. That it should be what? Rashi says it should be fixed. It should be clear in his hands. Guys, he's working this field. He's going to have to go ahead and give a meiser share to the guy. He's going to get sick of that. So what's he going to do? He's going to buy it back from him. So he who has a feeling for this field, who really wants it very, very badly, we counsel him to go ahead and pay the meiser on the guy's chelek, even though a sharecropper is not like a chichor, and therefore he's not paying off a chayiv. And he should only have to take meiser off his part, not the guy's part. Since it's his field, meaning his family field, we counsel him to do it. He's going to get sick of paying this surcharge to the guy of meiser, and therefore he's going to buy the field back. So it's not like a knas. Usually, as you did in Avera, we counsel you. You did no Avera, but we motivate him by going ahead and making him pay the meiser in order that it should be borrowed, that he should go ahead and buy the field, and it should be clearly in his possession. Okay, that's the explanation. So we have two explanations. Either one, because that there's a chi of meiser midaraisa, and a chaycher is a makabel is like a chaycher, and we threw that out the window because we have a case from a matzik. So the case by the matzik, we'll go ahead and say this case that where even if A, there's no chi of meiser, and B, even if there is a chi of meiser, it's only on his percentage, not on the guy's percentage. We're throwing this knas on the guy's percentage to incentivize him to go ahead and buy the field. Good. Now, why do we bring this in? For the following line. And we brought it in for the following line. So, Rabbi Yochanan, that it should be what? Fixed it clear in his hands. Rabbi Yomi going datzri charaba. For this we need Rabbi Yochanan. For this we need a great. That's why we brought it in. Itma. Someone goes down to his fence field. He goes ahead and he plants trees without permission. Amarav, Shaman Loi. We go ahead and we evaluate. And the guy who planted the tree has the lower hand. Meaning, if the Yitzias, the expenditures are more than the Shvach, he only gets the expenditures. If the Shvach is more, he'll get the Shvach. Whatever's lower end, that's what the planter of the trees will get. Ushmuel Amar, no. We look at the going price, about a person field to have his field landscaped and worked, and that's what he pays. Amra Papa, V'lei Pligid, and arguing. If it's a field that's normally planted trees, that's what Shmuel said is did. If it's a field that's not normally planted trees, maybe it's a stay love on. The guy wants to plant grain. So therefore, you didn't do him a favor by putting trees and making it into an orchard. In that case, the halacha is like Rav, that you're the alatach taina. Well, for the Rav, la befeirish itma, and Rav who said is din that it's the other is alatach taina. He did not say it explicitly, but el mechlola itma. We inferred it from a halacha l'maisadika case. Now, who does l'kamei the Rav? There was an individual who came in front of the Rav, and what? And someone had planted in his field, and now he wants to go ahead and said, Zil Shumle, go evaluate. So he tells him to go evaluate. Rav is testing the guy out. He wants to know exactly what's going on. So he said, go evaluate. Amalei, lei ba'ina. I don't want to. I don't want the trees. So Amalei, Zil Shumle, v'yada tachtoina. Oh, you don't want the trees because you want to play grand? You want to play grain? So go ahead and evaluate, and he has the lower hand. Good. So now, guys, this is what we needed. So this is the inference from this case where Rav said, evaluate, and if you didn't want the guy, then yada al tachtoina. Amalei, so the guy said, loy be'ina. I don't want him. I don't want to pay him anything. The slave chazia, the godra of the komantole. At the end, you know what Rav saw? The guy took trees, he took fences, and he started guarding the trees. So now, Amalei, you know what happened? Said Rav, Golis adaitach, you revealed yourself. The nichale, that what you're happy with the trees. Zil shumle v'yadei al elyoina. Go ahead and evaluate, and guess what? And the guy who planted the tree, he has the upper hand now. You're going to have to pay him the upper price. If the shvach is more or less, you're going to pay the shvach expenditures. You expect the expenditure is more than the shvach. So as long as you weren't happy, yada tachtaina, once you went ahead and showed you, when you guarded the trees, obviously you made this into a field that was asay linota, that was asay to go ahead and plant trees. When you did that, memela what? You showed you were happy with that, and therefore, yadayal elyoina for the one who planted, and you now, the owner, has the yada tachtaina. Itma. Someone goes down into the chuvra of his friend. And he goes ahead and rebuilds it with his rishus, without his rishus. I want to take back my wood and my stones. In other words, he wants to make it back into a churva. So Rav Nachman Shaiman Lo, you listen to the guy and he takes it back. Again, important names. Rav Nachman says you take it back. Rav Sheshes Lama ain't Shaiman Lo, you don't listen to him. Mesivei, Rav Shimon Gamliel there. Beishamai Yoimim Shaiman Lo. So the concept of Rav Nachman is going to Beishamai. Beisol Yoimim ain't Shaiman Lo. Lamer Rav Nachman Doma Ki Beishamai. Says the Gemara, no. Who Doma Ki Tana? Rav Nachman falls like the following Tana. The Tanya Shaimim Lo Divrei Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar. Says Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar Shaimim Lo. And there's no machloikis, guys. This is who Rav Nachman holds like. Shaimim Lo. He's able to go ahead and take back his sticks and his stones. However, Rav Shimon ben Gamliel Beishamai Yoimim Shaimim Lo. Beisol Yoimim Shaimim Lo. So we pass it. So in Rav Nachman, who's the expert in Dine Mominis, he's passing like Rav Shimon ben Elazar, who says there is no machlokes, and Beis Hillel admits that Shaiman. My Havila, what's the bottom line? Afterwards, machlokes Tanoim. Rav Yaakov and Rabbi Yochanan on the base says Rabbi Yochanan on base, but bias when it comes to a house, rebuilding a house, then what Shaiman like, then we will listen to him. If you went ahead, you can go take back your stuff. Besadeh, if you planted trees, right, ain't Shaiman Lo. He wants to take back the trees, we don't let it. Right? Besadeh, my timer, why don't we let him back? Mishum Yishav Eretz Yisrael. Or by taking out the trees, you're weakening the land, or the land was weak already because you nurtured the land. And therefore, it's not good to replant anything over there. My binayo, it can be nayo chutz laretz. If the tamas Yishav Eretz Yisrael, you will be able to take it. If the tamas weakening the land, then what? You're going to weaken the land. Says the Mishnah. If someone rents a house to his friend, any so how mean is, guys, if you rent a house in the winter, you're stuck. That's it. You can't go ahead and from Sukkot until Pesach, he's there. If you rent it in the summer, you give him 30 days notice. The large cities where it's very hard to find rentals because people always want to live there, then you have to give notice 12 months. When it comes to a store, whether it's cities, or large cities, you have to give 12 months. Rashi brings, fellas, that they would go ahead and they would have credit. They'd sell on credit. So if you're going to tell them they have to get out right away, they won't be able to get to the creditors. The people, not the creditors, the opposite, the people that he's the creditor, the one that he's owed. So we give him 12 months to collect all his debt. If it's a nachtum, a baker, or a dyer, then it's 3 years. Then we say it's 3 years. Rashi says because they're owed money for a very long time. The Meiri has a problem with this. He says, why would this profession be owed more than other people, bakers and dyers? So he says that the lashon of hakafa means over here moving your stuff. That these businesses, it takes a long time to move ovens and moves dyeing vats and different things, and to find a locale that will go ahead and accept dyeing vats and accept bakery. So therefore, you give them 3 years because it takes a long time to go ahead and transpose their business. Anyway, we said in the winter it's 30 days, and in the summer, the winter it's 6 months from Sukkot to Pesach, and in the summer it's 30 days. When you rent in the winter, it's for the whole winter. He rents for the whole time. Now, that's very important to always see Rashi with Kasal Kedaitach. Says Rashi, Kasal Kedaitach, at this time we're thinking, Hai b'mos geshamim li me geshamim kamar. The mos geshamim means for all the days of the winter. Shapirish hiskali beischa li mos geshamim. He said, rent for me for 6 months. In other words, the Havamina is, if you said, if you said 6 months, why is it different 6 months in the winter or 6 months in the summer? Where in the summer, it's 30 days in the winter, and the summer, it's 30 days, and in the winter it's 6 months. L'chayr should go after the contract. It's 6 months. You won't find a house to rent. Mashenkin in the summer you'll find a house to rent. So notice in the winter 6 months you won't find a house to rent. In the summer it's 30 days. Regardless of the season, it's 12 months. If the 12 months end up in the middle of Mes Geshamim, you're going to go ahead and kick the guy out. If you just told me in the winter, it's not shy to find a house to rent, so why would it be better, right? You're telling me if that Zman falls out in the large city, if 12 months falls out in the winter, you're stuck. In other words, you're going to throw the guy out. He has no house to rent. So therefore, your distinction that you want to make between the winter 6 months and the summer 30 days is not a good distinction because of the Sefer. Because the Sefer says 12 months for what? 12 months for a large city. Those 12 months could be in the winter. If it's in the winter and you tell me the reason you can't find lodging, so why 12 months wouldn't help you? So therefore, it must be a different pshat. So Rabbi Yehuda says, Rabbi Yehuda, I'll tell you pshat. Lohaidia katani. We're speaking to inform the guy. In other words, we're not speaking, in the half mina guys, you contract it out for X amount of time. It's not speaking about contracting. It's speaking about how long do you have to give notice. So now, Bahachi Kamar, here's the way you read the Mishnah. Hamaska bayis l'chaveri stam. If someone rents his house to his friend stam without going ahead and giving any contract for a lease, ein yochel lohoitzi b'mosag geshamim mechag v'ad pesach elam kain haidiu shloishim yoim meikara. So you have to go ahead and in the summer, guys, you have to 12 Tesvav Elul. The Chag is Tesvav Tishrei, right? So in that's when Sukkot is. So Tesvav Elul, you have to inform him. If you inform him Tesvav Elul, you would be able to tell him to leave. So we're giving him this that we're learning over here. Now, if you do not give him notice, then you're stuck the whole winter. That's what it means in the Mishnah. So we thought in the Mishnah it meant that you rented it out and now it fell in the winter and you don't have time. We're not speaking about that case. We're speaking of this time of Chagel Pesach means if you did not give him 30 days notice, then you're stuck the whole winter. If you did give him 30 days notice, then you're not stuck. Tanya Nami Hachi, Kishamu Shloishim, Ukishamu Shnei Masa, Chaydesh, when they say 30 for the a regular city and 12 for the big cities, loy onru el loidia, to inform. You have to inform. Ukeshem shemasket tzarich loidia, just like the rent, the owner, the balabus, has to inform them. Kach soicher, so to the renter, tzarich loidia, that he's going to leave. The amalei, because the owner, the balabus, can say, if you would have told us, we would have worked and got a good renter. But now, so now you're stuck in the contract. You're gonna have to pay the rent until what? If you don't inform him. Amarav Asi, if one day enters in the Moshe Geshamim, then you're not going to be able to get rid of him until Pesach. We said 30 days. If day 30 falls out in past in the beginning of the season, any Pesach. Then and if you want to go ahead and increase the rent, you're going to increase the rent. Amalei of Nachman, Hai lenakte bekufse the l'shavke leglime. You're grabbing him by a certain part of his anatomy, right? You'll see Rashi yourself, and you're taking his shirt. In other words, what's the guy supposed to do? You got him. You got him. But tzricha the ike basic. When could you raise the rent? If all rents go up, then you can raise the rent. But it's time for you to raise the rent. You can't. Now pshita nafale besa pashat the balabas. His house falls in, and he didn't inform the guy. And he didn't inform the guy that he needs the house. Now, how could he inform the guy that he needed the house? He didn't anticipate that his lodging would fall apart. But Amalei, so he, the owner, can said to the renter, "Le'atifus minoi, you're not better than me." Zavne, okay, and therefore what? Along Rashi, I can ask you to leave. The whole reason I didn't inform you is because I had no way of knowing my house is going to fall in. But now that my house fell in, you'll trouble yourself to find it, and I'll have my house. Zavne, if he sells the house, by Urse, or he dies and he bequeaths the house, or Yov Matana gives the house away as a Matana, then and now the guy shows up and he wants the renter out. Amalei, the renter could say, Le'atifus mikarva the osas mine. You're not any stronger than the guy who came, and he had to give me 30 days notice. So therefore, you can't ask me to leave. Kole lebrei. What happens if he needs it for his son? His son's getting married and he needs the house. Chazina. If it was possible for him to go ahead and inform him, he should have informed him. If not, you could say you're not better, and therefore he can ask him to leave. Ahu Gavra, there was this individual, the Zovin Arva de Chanra, he bought a boatload of wine. He couldn't find a warehouse to put it in. This woman obviously had a place that can be store the wine, and he said to her, do you have a place to rent me to store my wine? Amalei, she said, Loi. So what did he do? He did what any louse would do. Azal Kitsha, he went his Makadisha. He gave a Kedushin. So Yav Loi, and what did she do? Yav Duchli Laile. What happens? She gave him a place for his wine. So now his place has wine. Azal Lebese, he went home, and what did he do? Chasav Lagita. He wrote her a get. Never. You know what he did? This low life went ahead, needed a place. She said no. Some Kadisha, she said yes. Now he's running her a get after he stored the wine. So Shadallah, he sent her a get. Azla'ihi, she went. Agra Shakuloi, right? She went and rented schleppers. Minei Ubei, says Rashi, Minei Ubei from the Yayin Atzmai. In other words, they're going to pay what from the yayin itself. Not only she rent, she took the yayin and paid them. And afikte, they took it out. And they put it in the street. So Rav Huna Brei Rishua Kasha Asa came, and now this guy's claiming he wants money back. So what did Rav Huna Brei Rishua say? Kasha Asa King Yasaloi Gemuli Yoshev Baroishai. You got what's coming to you. Let me buy a chotzer like kaimel igra, not even a chotzer that normally is not rented. Elafilu chotzer the kaimel igra, even a chotzer that's normally rented. Amrulay, she could tell him, I can rent it, but tell you what I want. But you not. The dummy alike, he arya arava, you like a lion in ambush. guy would do such a thing. We said shal nachtoimim shal tzvayim shal shanim tanim v'fnei shehekifan meruban. So two pshatim. According to Rashi, because their creditors are the people that owe them are many, it's going to take them 3 years to get it together. According to Meirei, the transport of all the things and finding another place to store them is a different story. Okay, guys, tomorrow will be tomorrow morning. I don't know. I'm trying to get in 2 shiurim before Shavuos. So one will definitely be Sunday morning. I'll see about Sunday afternoon or Monday morning, but there has to be 2 shiurim. So tomorrow morning, they'll be shared probably about 9:15.